Hey friend, welcome back to Doña's Plants with Doña. So today I decided to go ahead and make another video. I know I made my intro video today, that's why I'm wearing the same shirt, a couple hours ago. But I figured, you know what, I have lots of plants, I got lots of time, not really. Let me go ahead and make another video. So, the love of my life, his name is Grover. I will talk about him all the time because I love him so much. And he's growing to be a plant zaddy too. Anywho, he suggested that I tell you why I don't want to do any edits, okay? My biggest reason, pretty much the only reason, is because I know that if I have to edit these videos, I'm going to film less of them because that's an extra step to the process. I will add those little timestamp thingies so that y'all can figure out, you know, where you want to be in the video and blah, 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 blah. That's probably the most I'll do. And I'll probably add thumbnails because I can do that really easily on my computer and that doesn't require any editing to the video itself. Okay, so that's my why. Also, if I don't do editing, it'll probably encourage me to talk less because I can be very wordy. So again, my name is Doña. I showed y'all my plant wall. It looks a little bit different because I have the shade down so that y'all can see me. Otherwise, the light behind me would make me look super dark. It's a really important tip about lighting. Make sure that your light is in front of the subject, not behind the subject. Otherwise, the subject looks really dark. Anyways, the plant that I want to talk to y'all about today is called a pothos, aka devil's ivy. So I have 4 different ones. They come in different variations actually I have 5, but one of them hates me. We're not going to talk about her. They come in different variations as far as the variegation on their leaves and also the texture of their leaves. So I'll show you my small girl first. Her name is Greta, and I believe she is a Marble Queen or a Snow Queen Pothos. So you can see her foliage and just the design that's on her leaves, how it's 2 different colors. That's called variegation. This leaf is about ready to go, but I like to let my plants just shed their leaves whenever they want to. Sometimes if they're really bad, I'll pull them off, but I'll show you my other girl whose variegation is kind of the same, but she's really, really long. So I named her Deborah. And as you can see, Deborah's vines are really, really long. She hangs in my kitchen in the windows, but you can also see that some of her leaves are just green. Some of her foliage doesn't have variegation at all, but up here at the top, she's got lots of variegation. So my hypothesis is that these leaves are forming with more variegation and they are farther away from the light. All of this foliage that's on her vines is in the windows, like hanging directly in the windows. So I'm assuming that's why, but you know, we're getting a little half and half situation here. Okay, so let me tell y'all about pothos. Again, they come in different varieties. Most of them are variegated like this with the white and the green. There is one that's more common called the golden pothos that has less of this white in the leaves and more of like a yellow. Those are super common. All pothos are honestly super common, okay? So first let's talk about light for pothos plants. All of my pothos, most of my pothos are pretty much in the window. This one, Deborah, as well as my other one that's really, really long and traily and viney, they're in my kitchen on like a, I don't know, some sort of shelf. And where the pot itself sits is probably about 1 foot above the window. So it's not in front of the window, it's like off to the side. But all the vines are directly in front of the window itself. And I have little nails up so that, because these ones are like touching the counter now, so that they fall directly in the window. And that window over there is a south-facing window. I haven't been opening it up because I live in the high desert of Southern California and it gets up to like 110 out here. So the more light that comes in, the more warmth that comes in the house. And I'm not inside all day, but by the time the evening comes, it'll be pretty warm in here. So sometimes I'll open up the blinds for like 5 or 6 hours and then close them, there's still light coming through. It's just not as much as if the blinds were open. So my suggestion for pothos type plants are, as far as lighting goes, is bright indirect light. And what I mean by indirect is if you have a window where there's no shade outside of the window and the sunlight is beaming in and it's just like a straight beam of light, that's direct sunlight. Similar to if you were just standing outside in the middle of your lawn and sunlight's just coming down, that's direct sunlight. Most plants don't like direct sunlight. It's too harsh for them. So you could cut that by like a sheer curtain, something like this that's still going to allow the light in but will make it less harsh. Or you could cut it by just placing the plant a little bit farther away from the window so it's not getting that super dark, super harsh direct sunlight. I have one pothos that's called a jade pothos. It's completely green. It has no variegation whatsoever. That's on top of my fridge. And the fridge is probably 12 feet away from the same window that Deborah is in. And it's growing. It's just growing slowly. Remember that plants need light to perform photosynthesis to continue to grow. Also remember that if you have a plant in a shaded room, like if this was dark all the time or that shade was down all the time, and then all of a sudden I put Deborah in that window, she's gonna burn. So you have to acclimate your plants if you want to give them more light, if you want to move them outside, what have you. You can just toss them out there or put them in the new light environment, but just remember that they're gonna go through a period of acclimation where they may lose leaves. Sunburn on plant looks like really dark spots. It kind of looks like that. If y'all can see that, hopefully that's focused. That's not sunburn because it's not in direct sunlight, but that's what it kind of looks like on plant foliage. Okay, I think that's enough about light. So let's move on to water. Watering for pothos plants. Pothos do not tolerate being overwatered. They do much better if they're only watered when they're bone dry. So when it comes to pothos, helping them, I guess, just survive better, if you tend to be a plant parent who overwaters, is to put them in what's called a terracotta pot. And it's just a rough clay pot like this material. Ugh. Ooh, dirt just fell out of there. This is a terracotta pot. It's very small. It's only about 4 inches. But this material is terracotta, and terracotta itself absorbs water. So for a plant like pothos that does not like to be overwatered, placing it in a terracotta pot means that it will dry out more quickly. But you still want to make sure you're using either a moisture meter, which is one of these. This one measures moisture, pH, and sunlight. If I put this in Deborah right now, she'll probably pop up like maybe a little bit moist because it's been just a couple days since I watered her. She's still a little heavy. Or you can just take your index finger or one of your fingers and stick it into the soil. If you take your finger out, you can feel it too. If you take your finger out and there's soil stuck to your finger, that means there's still water in there. If you take your finger out of the soil and it's, like just dusty, that means the plant could use some water. For a plant like Deborah, because of where she is, I wait until her foliage starts to wilt. I don't have a wilty pothos over here to show you. But basically, her foliage starts to like fall and droop, and it looks sad. If I do it now, she'll snap because she's like super perky. But yeah, so I typically wait for my pothos, especially her, to wilt because she's up high, and I don't access her every single day. So I'll just look at her every day, and once she looks really wilty, then I'll go ahead and take her down. And there's roots coming out the bottom of her pot. I just repotted her. Dang, girl, y'all see that? That's a root. These are roots. I can't with you, Deborah. I can't. I just dropped soil all over the floor. I'm gonna have to vacuum later. Anywho, I guess that should be a topic too, repotting. Again, when it comes to watering for pothos, they prefer to be bone dry. They do not want to be moist. They do not want to be damp. They do much, much better if you wait for them to wilt a little bit and then water them. I bottom water my plants. All of these pots have drainage holes in the bottom, so I usually just put her in the sink because she's kind of large, or a bucket. Fill the water up to, in whatever container, up to about there. and just put her in the container. And then she will absorb water through the bottom. I do this because that keeps the top of the soil dry. And also I can just leave her in there for about 30 minutes and make sure that she gets all the water that she needs. When it comes to all of your plants, remember that when you water from the top, the water is going to find the quickest way to exit the pot. That doesn't mean that your plant's roots have gotten the water that they need. So bottom watering ensures that the plant's roots are what gets the water first because they're at the bottom of the pot, bottom, middle, bottom. And also that the plant gets all the water that it needs because you'll feel it is physically heavier once you bottom water and take it out. You might notice sometimes you water your plants from the top and then they're not heavier afterwards. They feel the same. It's because the water didn't actually absorb into the soil. It just found the quickest route to exit the pot. Okay? One more thing about watering, kind of. The heavier the pot is that your plant is in, the more it will retain water. So terracotta absorbs water into the pot itself. But if you put a plant in a glazed clay pot, the thickness of the pot will not allow the water to evaporate as quickly as a plastic pot will. So most of my plants are in plastic pots. This is a nursery pot that I used and recycled from another plant. Greta is in a pot that I bought another plant which is just a little plastic pot. I make sure that all of my pots have drainage holes. You do not want to have a plant in a pot without drainage holes, especially if it's outside and it rains. That's another topic. I'll talk about that later. But keep that in mind. If you have your plant in a heavy clay pot, it's going to retain water longer. Okay? Now let's talk about propagation and repotting. All right, so propagation for pothos, any vining plant, is really, really easy. Every single node, I hope that's clear. See this little guy right there? That's a node. That will turn into roots if I snip right below it and put this section into water. All down her vines are nodes. What nodes also do is they attach to things so that this plant can climb. So keep in mind that if you have a pothos or a climbing type plant, first of all, if you let it climb in your house, it's going to ruin your paint. Just a heads up. Pothos are invasive in places like Hawaii. They thrive there. And when they grow on the side of buildings, they destroy like whatever that material is. Okay, so propagation for these plants is very, very easy. You just snip a piece off. Like, if I can find the bottom, I could snip off each of these leaves. I could snip off, like each of those sections. Let me put it right here. Each of these sections of vine, right? So here's my vine. I wouldn't do that because she's got, I'd probably just snip it here because there's a little node right here. And then I put this section into water. I want to make sure that I'm not snipping here because she's got 2 new leaves and I don't want to disturb those too much. So I could snip here, take this leaf off and put it into water. Same thing for this section here where it has a leaf, and this section here where it has a leaf. All those sections where there's leaves, there's little nodes right next to those leaves. Put them in water in a glass jar or a plastic jar or cup or something, in a windowsill, or put it somewhere where you're going to keep the plants. For example, if I wanted to propagate Deborah and I wanted to put her in this room, I put my propagation jar wherever I want her to live. I found that it makes it easier for the plant to acclimate when she puts them in soil. Once my propagations have beautiful roots and have grown a new leaf, that's when I put them in soil. When it comes to repotting, like Deborah, typically I always wait until I see the plant's roots outside the bottom of the pot, which of course you can't do unless your pot has drainage holes. For some plants, it's good to check periodically. If you ever notice that your plant just kind of stops growing, it could be because it needs more sunlight, or it could be because it needs to be repotted. Pothos are really good about, like, they'll let you know when they need to be repotted. Their roots will start coming out the bottom. Every time you repot, make sure you're just going one size up. I believe this is this might be a 10-inch pot. So when she's ready, and I'll wait for more roots to start growing out. When she's ready, I'll put her in a 12-inch diameter. That's the diameter of the pot. You don't want to go up any larger than that. Contrary to popular belief, houseplants do not fill their pots. So if you have a really small house plant and you put it in a huge pot, it's not gonna just fill it in. Vegetables do that, like bell pepper plants, tomato plants, and blah blah blah. The house plants do not. They only grow based on the size of their root ball. It's different when they're planted in soil because I honestly don't know. There's just a difference when they're planted like in the ground. I mean, when it comes to soil for my plants, I usually just go to a nursery instead of like Home Depot to get my soil. Or if I get soil, I'll get like an off-brand for like vegetables. I don't usually do Miracle Grow. It's just really cheaply made or something. Cheaply made. So I prefer to just use anything but that's just my personal preference. If you use Miracle Grow and you don't have problems, you good. Keep using it. But yeah, I don't get super fancy when it comes to soil. Pothos are not very picky when it comes to soil. I've also never fertilized or fed any of my pothos plants. Typically what you can do is just change out the soil, or not change out the soil, but let's say that this is next year and it's, excuse me, May 2020 or March 2022, and she's still in this pot. I would take her out and then see if she needs to be repotted, put some fresh soil that already has some fertilizer in it, and then just put her back in the same pot if she doesn't need to be repotted. And that extra boost of nutrients from that new soil will be totally fine enough to feed her for, the next year. I don't feed any of my house plants, honestly. I feed my vegetables, like I have avocado plants and stuff, but I've never fed any of my house plants, like ever. So there's my little 25-cent tip on fertilizer and feeding. Okay, so we did light, we did water, we did propagation and repotting. I guess that's it, honestly. Pothos are super easy to care for. They're really, really beautiful plants. Their foliage is really pretty. The awesome thing about them is they grow so much that you can share them with friends and stuff. I do my best to name all of my plants. It's just kind of cool when talking to them. Hey Deborah, what's up, girl? But yeah, I guess that's it. So yeah, check if you haven't already, once I put it in there, check the description of the video for my Instagram page if you'd like. It's not completely plant related, but I got some plant stuff on there. Please like this video if you found it helpful or useful. Share it with your family and friends. And of course, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be putting up new videos every 2 to 3 days, just about the plants that I have around my house. I have a lot to go through, and I also have vegetables, and I have plants in the front, like cacti and stuff. So I'll do my best to just share everything that I know about that specific plant. I might have some repeated stuff just based on, plant care tips. But yeah, that's all for today, guys. Once again, like this video if you found it helpful. Comment below any questions, anything that you found especially helpful. And press the subscribe button so you can be alerted, and the bell so you can be alerted when I post new videos. And if you have any suggestions for a plant that you'd like me to talk about, I might have it. I can do a video on it. So put it in the comment box. Once again, my Instagram will also be in the description if you want a more direct way to contact me. Otherwise, have an incredible day, and I will see you in a few days.